And there's no way we can manage behaviors in a downstairs brain. And how we manage this is going to depend on the emotional maturity of the child and a lot of the age. So my daughter, when she was really little, I should have medicated her back then, but I wasn't smart enough to do that, right? And she's highly anxious. And she was 3 years old, and she'd have 2-hour temper tantrums because she could not get out of it, right? She was just down in that downstairs brain. Well, quickly, we started to doing some calming strategies with her because I was like, I gotta figure out something. She was actually, I think, 2 when we started this. And she loved to do math problems. And so we would start, and we'd go, okay, what do you have to do? Let's do our math problems. And I would hold up her hand, and what's 1 + 1? And she would, like, every time she threw a fit, we wouldn't even deal with a fit. We would just do little math problems that were simple for, 2, 3, 4-year-old. And finally, when she could answer the math problems, again, simple, 1 + 1 is all we were doing, 1 + 2 maybe. And when she can answer it, what happened? She's now back in that frontal cortex brain. And we started to then go through our Fancy Nancy dilemmas, because we just don't have problems, we have Fancy Nancy problems, and they're sort of called dilemmas, and we would use fancy words to help her, and now constantly as she started to go back into that cerebral cortex as we talked through what was going on, she would come, we would use a Fancy Nancy word, we'd have to stop, think of that, get her back into that frontal cortex. And within 3 weeks, I had a child who went from 3-hour temper tantrums to 15 minutes. Within a year, she knew our coping strategies. She was like, oh wait, I'm stressed. She'd run upstairs, maybe go jump in the bathtub by herself. She'd go wash her face. She would do all her strategies, all right? Because she now had that skill set because she learned it when she was in the frontal cortex. What I was missing before is she was in that bottom cortex. She was in the downstairs brain. She was in that brainstem functioning. I couldn't teach her anything. So for our kids, we need them in the frontal cortex. If they're reacting, if they're screaming, if they're doing whatever, we're not going to be able to teach them anything. They're not going to glean anything from us except annoyance and hatred. All right? We have to get them in the frontal cortex. That means we might have to walk away. What maybe means that we have to ask them questions. If they are engaging in that, you can have them, hey, you know what? I know we're upset. How about we just count back from 100? 99, 98, 97, 96. And once they start talking through it, okay, now we're in that frontal cortex brain. Some kids need touch. All right, some kids need, at the hospital, when my kids go through, the patients go through medical procedures, I rub the palm of their hand a lot because there's some calming reflex. So when I talk to them and I'm engaging them about a medical procedure, I just sit there and press on their palm of their hand and engage them that way. Keep them calm. Might touch them under the chin or rub their cheek. Some of our foster care kids, you can't touch. All right, so know those kids. You might have to keep your distance because that closeness is a trigger for them. All right. But again, sometimes it's engagement. Sometimes it's just, hey, let's listen to a song for a little bit. All right. Whatever you can do to get them in that frontal cortex, we can start moving forward, but don't ever try to engage them in the bottom cortex. You're going to lose.
I have a question. With your daughter that you were talking about, had she had adverse childhood experiences herself, or?
Other than me as a mother, no.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I had a horrible pregnancy. She came so fast. I got no painkillers during delivery. But other than that, I don't know. I was maybe not a great mom. I don't know. No, she's just high anxiety.
Maybe she was being a typical.
She is high anxiety, and she gets it from both sides of the family.
So maybe it's dormant and it was fine.
Yes, maybe. I blame my husband. And my husband, she's actually my sister to a T, so I blame her. When my husband gets on a nerve, I blame her and him, But yeah, no, I wish I could claim some of her problems for her. So again, these are the differences. Remember, we don't want to address things in downstairs brain. We want to get them in the frontal cortex. We want them in the upstairs brain so we can think through it. Another thing that we need to do is sleep, routine, and movement. These kids do not sleep. right? They don't know how to sleep. They're over-medicated. They are used to trauma, you know. I remember my first time with Chris, he was like, Diane, Trey doesn't sleep. He's up all night long. And I was on a mission. I was like, we're gonna fix that. And literally we did. I mean, the first weeks of school, I took 2 weeks off work. And the first day he came in with us, like, oh, we gotta go this. And we went, and we moved, and we moved, and we moved till about 10 o'clock at night. And then he was like, I gotta go to bed, I'm tired. We did that for 2 weeks, and we had a good routine. And then the pandemic hit, and then that was all over. All right, we're done with that. No more routine after that. But, they need that activity during the day. They need to have a reason, especially these teens that sit around and do nothing all day, especially if they're in RTC. It's hard. I mean, it's hard, those sleeping patterns. But the most we can get them the routine, the better. My husband and I, there are very few battles we will fight, but sleep is one of them. And he has to be in bed at a certain time. He doesn't have to go to sleep, but he has to be in bed and the lights have to be off. And that's it. That is one battle that we will fight because we think it's important. He has to be regulated. We are fair on it. It's 9 o'clock on the weeknights. It's 11 o'clock on the weekends. You talk to the sleep experts. That's not okay. Like, if I talk to my sleep experts, they say no, he has to have that every night. I'm not going to be punitive. I mean, he's 15 years old and he wants to stay up late, but routines are really important. All right, as many routines that we possibly can have, some consistency to that. One of the things that I've noticed with my son is he was really panicked about us not picking him up from school, or who was going to pick him up from school every day. Who's picking me up from school today? Who's picking me up? I don't know, somebody will. And that was just because I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't plan things, I just, that, and I realized quickly I had to have a plan. And so what we did is we made a calendar in our house and we put who was picking him up from school and anything that we were doing that week. So he could see exactly what everybody was doing, where they were gonna be that week, and manage that. And that worked really well, and he seemed to be calmer. We'd still get messages, we would still find things of doing. And then he finally adopted him. We got him a cell phone, and every day, who's picking me up from school today? Who's picking me up from school? I was like, it was freaking on the calendar. Why didn't you look, right? And then all of a sudden it stopped, and I was like, Trey, why did you stop asking us who's picking you up? Well, we have Life 360, so he set the school as one of the alarm places. So every time one of us drove past the school, it would alarm that we were there, so he knew who was picking him up.
Wow.
And I thought, what a great he knew that was a panic moment for him, and I thought, why don't he just solve the problem himself? Because at the last 15 minutes of school, he knew somebody was there to pick him up. And I have no idea the impact that made to him, but I'm sure in that last 15 minutes it was huge, because I've never heard a story of him not being picked up from school, but not that I probably would, but that was definitely a panic moment for him. And then the movement.
Somebody was coming.
What?
And he knew that somebody was coming.
Yeah.
So he knew that y'all weren't abandoning him
He
at some
knew,
point
yeah.
because of what he
So
did.
there was something that was stressful to him on that. I have no idea what that was, but we tried to address it. But I was really impressed when that he's like, you guys are losers. You're not solving this problem for me. I'm gonna solve it for myself. So the last one is movement, and I want to go into the story a little bit here because I think when we look at developmental periods of kids' lives, we have to realize the majority of our kids are missing some of these blocks. A lot of them blocks, maybe all of them, all right? They didn't build trust and security. They weren't really able to explore. They didn't really get independence. They didn't get competency, industry, and identity. And I share this story because it was about a year ago that we were denied our last RTC placement. And I was like, what are we gonna do? And I said, okay, we gotta go back to research. What does the research say? The most important thing is movement. And so I sent my whole family, meaning my 2 other children, my son's fiance, and my husband, like cheerleader text message. And I was like, okay guys, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make this work. We just need to get him moving, right? We've been in the middle of pandemic. We haven't been moving. We haven't been out doing a lot. We're gonna get him moving. Tonight we're having a big kickball tournament in the cul-de-sac. Ready? Everybody's out. Like, yay! I didn't get much response back. Anyway, my daughter was like, peace out, I gotta go to work. She left. My husband was like in the back of the kickball going like, please God, just help me get through this experience. My son and his fiance were amazing, and they pulled through for me. And we had 2 hours of complete hell. It was, I can't tell you, it was hell. We're screamed at the entire time. We were like, you guys, we were sworn every name in the book, and we're like, okay, we're gonna just kickball. This is so much fun. Like it was awful. My two were so good that I was like, hey, you know what? Go out to dinner on me. Just put it on the credit card tomorrow night. You guys so thankful. They did go out to dinner. I didn't see them for 2 more weeks, by the way. But you know what we did after 2 hours of hell of him screaming at us giving in, and every minute we went inside, and we saw this kid that was now regulated for the first time in a long time. And we're like, whoa. So the next night, another kickball tournament, but I couldn't do that because it was raining and pouring, so I couldn't do that. So we got out the Wii, thank goodness for the Wii, and we played boxing. And I have no idea how to play Wii boxing. I just was like this the whole time. I was screamed at, hollered for an hour and a half. I was very sore at the end of that because that's a really big workout. And yet again, yelled at the whole entire 2.5 hours or hour and a half that I was, because I was cheating. He was winning, by the way, too, because I don't know how to play this game. And yet at the end of it, you're a more regulated kid. And so we quickly started to just go out and play every night. Unfortunately for me, for a while, it was just on me. Everybody was exhausted at my home, and I went out every night and we played basketball in the cul-de-sac. And we connected, we got out that physical activity, and he grew confidence. Because I'm a really bad basketball player. I'm a really bad basketball player. And he loves basketball, right? And he was having fun, and he was able to show off his skill set, and he was winning every time. And sometimes he would push me down and I'd fall on the ground, and he'd be like, all of a sudden he'd realize he hurt me. And he'd be like, I'm so sorry, and help me get up. I'm like, okay, wait, we can't play as aggressive like that. Like, I'm an old lady. And he would follow through, and he wouldn't play as aggressive with me. And you know what? It took about 6 months, but we quickly started to see the results. We quickly realized we didn't need an RTC for him. We had it. We needed connection, and we needed physical activity. And now he doesn't want to play with me because I'm not good enough for him. So, yay, it's now my husband's turn. But again, that's awesome because now he has the confidence. Now he doesn't have confidence in everything, but he does have a little bit more confidence. He now learned every night he could trust that I was going to go play basketball with him every single night. He started to being able to explore his skills. He started being independent, and he, when he started getting frustrated, you know what he does now? He goes, grabs that ball, and he goes out in the cul-de-sac, and he starts playing on his own. When he's he knows when he's dysregulated and when he needs it. He got confident. So now I have this teenager who can get an identity of himself, but he has those blocks are starting to form. And in every skill set and every opportunity, we're building that up, so that he can get that more and more. I think about, he's an amazing golfer, right? He's got some mad golfing skills. He doesn't feel comfortable golfing at on the golf team because he doesn't have those confidence. So I have to, when they tell everybody, get involved in the school, well, what am I going to get involved in? This is not an easy society to get your children involved in things if they don't already have a really developed skill, right? And he can go in and be laughed at. I don't know, but he is good. And so we just develop those skills more and more, and hopefully maybe he might one year join the golf team, and that would be great. Also with activity, we call the school and we have him at PE first thing every morning. So he goes into school at 6:30 and he starts PE. And so when I asked him next year, I'm like, what are you gonna take next year? He's like, I think I'm gonna take PE again. Okay, all right, because he started to realize it sets him up for success in that day. So again, that movement is really important, but we can do it in a way that helps build some of those blocks. Anything that we have, remember those blocks need to be filled so that they can be confident adults. And if we're trying to get them to a skill level and they don't have the blocks underneath, we're just asking for problems. Ultimately, I'm gonna give you another story with my kids. I'm sorry, I'm like probably annoying you, but notice that when these kids start to act, it's really easy for us as adults to sign judgment. And we define the meaning in their behavior. But ultimately, this is a relationship and this is a dance. And it's important that we try to avoid assigning meaning to what they are and what they do and the reasons why they're doing it. And I think that's the hardest part, right? I mean, if we're gonna be authentic with ourselves, we're sitting here saying, this kid's doing it because of this, or this kid's doing it for this. Kids in trauma, they don't know why they're doing half the stuff they do. So this is a little exercise we did with my husband and I. He was so mad at my son, and we went for a walk to calm him down, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great talking point that I could do in my presentation, so you guys all get it too. So, you know, we've gone around and around about money and allowance and all that stuff, and basically, he just doesn't want to do work to get money, like, he doesn't want to do it. Okay, so then there's no money, right? Sorry, you don't have any money. And, but we were in this situation where he was so angry and screaming at us and being a complete idiot about wanting that it was all our fault that he doesn't have money. He didn't want to do any of the jobs that we gave him where he can earn money. And my husband had been dealing with this all day. It was right after the pandemic, a couple months. My husband's company closed down, so my husband was with him all the time. I worked in healthcare, so I was living my life. I was spending all my time in healthcare after the pandemic, and so I get home and my husband was like, they've had enough fights, and this is what my husband said. He's lazy and he doesn't want to do anything. He thinks money grows on trees. These are all the statements he's throwing at me on a walk, right? He's a little ungrateful little shit, right? He's never thankful for what he gets. Diane, he's trying to manipulate you and I. It was more me. He's like, Diane, he's manipulating you. It was not manipulating me, it was me. That was the truth of the situation. And I can't bend any further. And that's where my husband was. He's like, I can't bend any further. And he just on and on and on and on in this thing. By the end of the way at walk, what we could really say is, no, he's just trying to find balance. Because healing from trauma is tiring. And he's not being lazy, he's just healing. And if I lost my mom today, you would give me all the time I needed to heal, and cry, and sit in my bed and do nothing. And he's lost so many people in his life. He's also never been shown that he can be successful. Because he does activities and he's been torn down. He does activities and he's been torn down. He doesn't understand gratitude because nobody's been thankful for him. Except for he's still young and still trying to figure out the world. And most kids at this age don't have it figured out. He's never had a consistent message around money. Right? He has no consistency around money. And you can't understand something you've never had. So that was the truth. That's the truth of that situation. And I think as CASA workers, I just give this example because sometimes when you're in that home with that child and you're dealing with that all the time, they might need to just unleash on you guys. And they might need to say all these things about this kid that you know are not true. let them go. Let them scream it out. And then maybe after they get it all out, you can say, okay, let's talk about this kid. Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about the brain. Let's talk about where he's been. And maybe let's think about really what he is. And then maybe we can figure out a way to go forward. Because we have to understand their past, and we have to understand who they are. And some of these kids will show that to you, and some of the kids won't. Last, we have to look at ourselves. Me time. I don't know if this is anybody else. He's like, all the kids are still, I'm finally asleep, I'm ready, I got my own time, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm asleep. Working with this population, working with these kids are hard. And we all have to create our pause moments. Moments of pause for us all. This one, foster parents, the CPS workers, everybody, we all need moments of pause. One of my child abuse physicians, she said one time, and I thought it was so true. It's like, there aren't enough adult coloring books in this world that can help me deal with the stuff that I see in a day. All right? This is a physician who all she does is work in child abuse. Sees the worst of the cases in Houston. And that's what you guys see. All right? She might be the first one to get them. You guys are the second. Right? You see the worst cases around all the time. And there aren't enough adult coloring books that you guys can color. There's probably not enough marathons that you can run, so don't feel like you have to, all right? We all talk about these strategies of self-care, and I think they're a hogwash. Personally, that's my own personal thing, right? Because the stuff that we do every day is really, really hard. But what we can do is find balance for ourselves. And the one thing we can never get too much of in our life is balance. Think about that. The one thing you can never get too much of is balance. So I'm a big proponent of creating a mission statement or creating core values. They've changed a lot since I brought my son into my home, all right? And my core values, I got 3 every day. And it starts with, did I connect with him? Did I make an attempt to connect with him? Did I show up? And did I have integrity? Meaning my actions and my words matched. And there are days where I don't want to show up, but I do. And there are days where it was hell trying to connect with that child, right? But I did. I at least attempted. And I don't have to worry about how he received it. I have to worry about what I did. And if I did those 3 things at the end of the day, I can hold my head held high and say, I can be proud of the work that I'm doing for him. I can be proud that I've done the best I can, because this is not you change a child in a day. This is a lifetime of work. And in 5 years, I'm still going to be coming back to y'all and maybe sharing more crazy stories of his behavior, right? That because they're still going to come, right? But if I keep doing my 3, connecting, showing up, and speaking with integrity, then I've done my job. So think about that for yourselves. What are the things that you can do? Because you probably have so many kids on your caseload, you know? You have your own personal lives that you're dealing with. What are those things that you can do every day? And if you can do those, be proud of who you are and the work that you do, because that's what's most important. And this is a great video, but I don't think I have to show it. No, but it's called The Window of Tolerance. If you guys on YouTube go look at The Window of Tolerance by the Beacon House, it's really a little great quick video clip. At Texas Children's Hospital in our public health section, we do a lot of work. We have our clinical side of our work that does, we have our child abuse clinic. That has actually been expanded to the Woodlands campus recently. So we at TCH Woodlands, we now have a couple days a month where we are seeing child abuse cases there. We do have our foster care clinic where we do 3 and 30 days, but we also do comprehensive medical exams where our physician will meet with the attorney at Lytem, we'll meet with the foster parents, we'll meet with the birth parents that are still involved, they'll meet with the CASA worker. Everybody gives information on their case. We do a lot of information management. So like my son, I have no medical records on him before he came into my home because he's gone to every single medical clinic. We try to go through any medical record that we possibly can, and we pull it all into our medical record so that we can continue to, we at least have what we can find. We do that at the 30-day and within these comprehensive visits, and then they'll make recommendations to the court within those visits. We have a full-time psychiatrist that we have dedicated appointments for that. We have a fast track into developmental peds. It's not a perfect system by any means because we still have a long waiting list, but it's faster than if you would go through the process normal. Unfortunately, most of the work does happen at the main campus, so we're looking at expanding, we're just not there yet. We do have a whole public health section that is does a lot of community-based programs around addressing childhood adversities and preventing child abuse ultimately. One program that I think is really great to know about is our Upwards program. It is where we attach a language device to the kids' clothing, and it measures the number of vocal interchanges that are happening in the home and the number of words spoken in the home. So if you have a kid that's in foster care that's a young one, and that foster parent would be willing to set up, basically it's run by speech and language therapists. They get a vocal record of all the words that's spoken home, and they start to see the child's language development move forward, and then the parent is hooked up to a 14-week parenting class. So on a prevention side, if they're with their birth parents or foster parents that are willing to do that, again, we've been able to identify some kids that have the early language problems and get them and refer them out. We are finalists for a $5 million grant, will allow us to see those kids and get them to services faster. I think that's a great program that is helpful to any foster parent. And again, to get some record and some language support in the home very quickly for those kids who relate. Other than that, any questions?
I have a question. Back on the slide that had the blocks on it, sensitive and critical period. For 6 to 12-year-olds, it said industry. What exactly is that?
It's a more bigger form of competence. Like I can create things, I can do things. It's like I can influence my future.
Creativity and getting them to do things. Okay.
We were going to show the video.
Oh, good. Okay, awesome. We could probably even do it on the one presentation. Okay, if you want. I can probably do that. Okay.
While she is looking up the two videos, Rachel has an announcement.
A couple announcements. First of all, be sure y'all are checking y'all's emails. We've sent a couple of things out, so you should have a code of conflict of interest that you need to sign, and then a pledge of confidentiality that has been sent out. So make sure if you haven't already to sign those. We do have some floating around that you can sign while you're here. And then also there is an advocate survey that we're asking y'all to fill out just to get some information that I won't tell you about so you can read it on your survey when you turn it in. No, you're okay. And then the last big announcement I have is we have hired the replacement for Kelly and Elaine, and she is in this room, Miss Catherine James. She has been with us for 3 or 4 years, 3 years. And so we're excited to have her come on board. If you are a Walker, or if you are a Trinity or San Jacinto advocate, don't freak out yet. We're still in the process of transition, so you're still with me for a little bit. But check your emails. There are more information about other changes and things. And once we get through that transition, we will keep you guys posted. But that is all the announcements I have for now. So. Oh, also, that's a lie. I have Valentine's, and Rosa has Valentine's for your kids. So if you're here and haven't picked them up yet and would like to before you leave, get with us
I'll show
after.
you this form, I'll show you to make sure. Rachel, I think Savannah sent this out already.
Yes, she did, so.
Okay, who didn't complete the survey? I'm not-
Because they were.
Yes, ma'am, there was
Last week.
there was a confidentiality in the survey form.
The survey, I tried to send out a message saying this, should I go inside
I didn't do it yet. I asked for one.
But I do need to speak with you about a case actually, so we'll get on top of that.
I think that
You got
one
one?
out today.
I do. The survey, I'm sorry.
Yes, no, that's the confidentiality is different.
Okay, I need that one.
Okay.
Understood.
And I don't want to take away from questions y'all might have as well. Rosa. Is it there, but it's showing, conflict of interest to the scholarship.
They're in the middle of the first
They were at the end of this
They
page.
weren't, they
Considered
When,
Chris stole them, I told you.
Why is it always me?
Yeah, we can do
Rachel,
that.
you still have that pulled up?
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Who's sending me with a conflict of interest?
Yes. Will you connect to the?
Did anybody else need the conflict of interest? No?
did the other one, the confidentiality.
we need the confidentiality.
Oh, yeah.
Confidentiality.
I did the
I get the
confidentiality.
I don't think
I was going to print it, but
Did you
we're
say
going
you?
to take a pause on that.
Okay, so you could just send them again, or if you wanted to do them here, it's up to you.
No, that one's linked.
Okay, you just send it again.
And the copy.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
This video, I just think.
It's an ad right now.
This is just a cute little video. There's a series of them that I think, but I think it's a great, if you ever want to show it to a foster parent, I think it's great. I think it's great for anybody, teachers, to kind of just help them understand a little bit. It's really just music, so you can't hear anything, you're just not hearing music, that's all the words.